Welcome to Impact Investing, brought to you by the Supporters Fund. From the 4 square foot or 4,000 books, the smallest library in the world, Lisbon, Portugal. I'm your host, Jeffery J.P. Potvin, and let's please welcome from Babe Ruth's first professional home run in 1914 at Hanlan's Point, Toronto, Canada, Miryam Lazarte, General Partner of GSA Ventures. Welcome, Miryam. It's a real pleasure having you join us today.
Thank you so much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's nice to see that you're in Portugal.
Thank you. Likewise, very nice to see you again. And I love Portugal. Portugal's a brilliant place. It is. I've been here many times. I'm a big fan. And well, I'm actually more of a fan of yours. So we're going to dive into more about you and why
Mhm.
I'm a fan. But we've met over many times over the past, I'm going to say it feels like 10 years. But you've done some incredible things in the early stage startup space, technology space. And today we get to dive into that. So the way we love to start our show off is that we want to hear more about you. So maybe you can share all the way back from your University of Victoria days, all the way through to the startup visa and all the things that you've been building on and all the great stuff that you've been doing. And then one thing about you that nobody would know.
Sure. No, thank you again. So I'm original from Colombia. I actually arrived first time in Canada, 2008 in Montreal. And, I had really fun time there, 18 months working and learning French. I actually, there are a few things that you're going to learn about me that I never said to other people, but I actually learned back at home, three languages at the same time, English, French, and Japanese, which I normally ask people not to do that because I finished not learning anything. So I can read Japanese, but I don't know what I'm reading. And certainly when I arrived in Montreal, I just realized that I didn't speak French or English. So I have to go through, learning again French, in Quebecois in Montreal. And years later, I moved to, oh, not years later, 18 months after, I moved to Victoria, British Columbia, a place that I loved. 4 years being there, I was able to, have training sessions in University of Victoria. But I already have, two bachelor's degrees from my home country. So I'm a graphic designer and an international business professional from my home country. And then, basically what I was doing in University of Victoria, I was complementing some of my studies. And at that time was actually first time working with a technology company in British Columbia, and that gave me the first kind of taste of what was technology in Canada and the big, opportunity that people actually have, to develop technology companies here in the country. So in 2015, I moved to Toronto, and since then I've been working, uh, different initiatives, but all in regards of technology companies and newcomers. So what we have today of global startups was initially Latin startups for 7 years, working with startups from Latin America and other places. And then now we have this year also an investment fund. So has been kind of an evolution from working directly for a technology company, then, growing a community of newcomers in tech. And the things that you said that people should don't know about me. Well, I'm from Colombia and I don't like coffee. I just drink tea. Um, so many people normally say, well, would you want a coffee, or just, Colombians are famous for coffee, but yeah, I don't like it.
It's amazing. Well, I'm going to share that in when it comes to drinking tea or coffee, I'm the same. I go to the tea side, and I have been a
Mm.
tea drinker. I think it's because my parents were tea drinkers, so that was my thing every morning, holding your my mother's cup of tea when she drove and backed the car out and minus 20 snowfall. But I think when I come to Portugal, they're so inept at having the little shot of espresso that no matter what, if I'm here for 5 minutes or 5 days, I cannot help it. I have to have an espresso. I try so hard not to, but it's so hard. It's so good. Can't help it.
That's right. And I have to still, I have to drink my coffee still because, I need energy during the day. I know that tea doesn't give me that energy, but, time to time I have to drink. Not because I like it. It's more like a medicine somehow. But yeah, so.
Oh,
That's the thing.
it's a great product. I'm a big fan. I think it's a calming effect, and it has all different layers for whatever you're feeling one day to the next. So tea is a great product. I
Yeah.
kind of want to. Well, I'm actually fascinated by the fact that you've got these three languages. Je parle français aussi, so c'est mon français c'est Québec. But you know, at the end of the day, you learn things as you go throughout time. So it's kind of cool that you were working on those. And Japanese, konnichiwa, everything is very difficult to learn a million languages. But as I travel, I find that I have to pull out so many different things as I'm learning because you want to interface with people and I think it's a form of respect to be able to interface with people in their own language, even if you butcher the language. So that's really cool that you've been able to pick that up. And you probably said, well, the Montreal side, I'm going to have to make my way into Victoria where there's more English because if not, I'm going to have to really learn a lot about French here because, especially back in 2008, there was a heavy mandate going on for everybody to be heavily in French, French number one, and everything else number two. So that's pretty fascinating that you chose to go to Victoria.
Yeah, no, it was more for a weather thing than, than because of the language or any other thing. Like my husband at the time was my fiance, and he after the first winter there, he was like, nope, we go to the hottest place in Canada, and that's supposed to be Victoria. So that was the main reason, actually.
That's awesome. I've heard that a few times from people that have immigrated into Canada where they end up in Saskatchewan or Montreal and they go through one winter and they're like, oh my, how do people live in this cold? So I can totally understand where you're coming from that change was needed at that point.
Yeah, my husband is from California, so he's like, don't know what they're like. Yeah, he used to live in Chicago for 7 years, so that reminds him a lot about Chicago, and he's like, no way, I'm not going to live again on that weather. But other than that, I love the French culture, and food is always amazing there.
It is Montreal. I think you hit the spot there. Is that it has culture. I find
Mhm.
that a lot of countries around the world, especially Portugal and Lisbon, Porto, and other places, Spain, they've really maintained that culture side of things. And you know, when you go into the things that you're doing today too, a lot of it is built around culture. It's making when immigration comes in, they want to feel comfortable. They want to go to where their people are or where their people understand them. And I find that in Toronto, it becomes like a New York. It's just the mosh posh of concrete, and maybe there isn't that feeling of comfort when it comes to building a culture. There isn't much of one. From my perspective, but I think that in Montreal, Vancouver, Victoria, there is a culture there. There is that diversity, but people also can congregate in groups and really feel they're part of something. And I think that just means it's a smaller community. And when you start to look back at where you started off and from the education side and of course jumping into the media side and the tech side business, when you started to move forward into this startup place, what were some of the learnings that you gained from that first experience working in corporate, and what were those a few things that kind of helped trigger you to decide I really want to get into this innovation space and start to build in tech?
Well, that's a good question. In my home country, my family, they used to work for corporations, but as well, my mom was the entrepreneur. She was an entrepreneur. She wanted to always have a business besides her work. And, I always like to say, people, like in my family, we built and destroy businesses many times in Colombia. Just name one, we probably had it. We had restaurants, we have like small, medium businesses, we have, non-profits, we have for profits, all type of businesses. And of course, when I came to Canada, it was always is some of in my heart to have a business as well, but I could see the difference to have a business in Canada compared with my home country. It was pretty different. I could see that the amount of uh, help that you get from the ecosystem and people that want to actually support you, and not just from government but also from private. People are always willing to do something for you or do something with you. It's a pretty open mind, kind of society. Well, in my home country, it was very difficult to build something and actually get support around was almost impossible. So chances were that you are going to fail anyway because of many of the circumstances around. While in Canada, I always kind of want to think that if you fail, it's not because of lack of support, but it's because maybe there is some no market fit. There is the other reasons for why status fail. And sometimes could be the founder or the team, or many other of the other circumstances, but not because of the lack of support. So that's why I became kind of like obsessed to have this community, because I saw many of my fellows Latin American arriving in the country and not knowing where to go, and not feeling like I should speak with somebody about my business, or that I'm struggling right now with this and that. And our community was that kind of first step for them, to realize that this is not like home. You are in a place that somebody will help you. So that's what I wanted to, culturally speaking, pass to other fellow entrepreneurs, that I've been in their shoes. I know how horrible it is to create something and then see kind of like coming in pieces because there is no guidance or help around.
That's a great story because it really does encompass what it takes to be a founder, to be an entrepreneur, but also that it takes a lot of people to help build a company and help it grow. And in certain circumstances in Colombia back home, having the opportunity to build a company was there, but the support wasn't. And I think you noticed that, especially when you came back here. But I think probably while you were working here too, you probably noticed that the support here maybe was fragmented. It was all over. You had to really hunt for it and try to figure out who was going to be of value to help you. And I think when you start to build out your ecosystem and how you were doing that, you started to offer more touch points to help those people in the community. So now they start to feel part of something. They start to have more opportunities to talk to more people like-minded that have been through the same thing. And it kind of reminds me of one time I was taking a taxi back, and it was an Uber, and the driver was from Uganda, and we started talking, and I asked him about his experience coming into Canada and driving, and he said it was the most difficult thing he's ever done. But what he did was he actually built his own community to help other Ugandans to come into the country, and he helped them through the whole process. And I asked him, what was the reason you did that? He said, because it was so difficult for me that I felt that if I didn't do it justice to help other people, that they would have the same faults as I did. So I just think that that's an incredible way to kind of move forward. And it sounds like you've done the same, where you've come in, you started to learn the ropes, and you decided, look, if these people are going to be successful, we can build a community up and help them integrate quicker, but also help them find where all these areas are of support that are missing, and how we can support them collectively as a group. Because as one starts to grow forward and gets the help and support they need, they can then in turn that around and help somebody else that's coming new into the ecosystem as well.
That's right. I think there is also like a mentality barrier, like when you come from another country, you are especially when it's kind of like an emerging market. There are so many problems. I always mentioned in the past that Latin America crisis is a condition. Basically, you always get into a crisis. There is always something happening, and sometimes you get with that mentality that you are coming from a very very adverse type of ecosystem and circumstances, that you are prepared to fight when you arrive here. It's like, okay, what I have to do, things that I need, but sometimes it's you don't, you need to work hard, but you don't need to be necessarily like super prepared for that type of adversity that we have in our home country, if I may say. So it was more like looking at those circumstances was to me realizing that I can have a business here. I had a, before having latam startups, which is today global startups, I had a consulting company. And again, it's as difficult as many other a business. You still have to do work stuff. You still need to hear a lot of no's, things like that. But the help was there always, right? It was always that will give you, somebody will give you an advice that is pretty good for you, legal advice, whatever you have, things were way easier on that way. And this is what what I try to work with our startups is like, okay, be prepared to receive advice and be prepared for open up. And there is a reason for why people are helping you. And I feel like in the country in general and the ecosystem, people help you because if your company grows, you are going to actually create jobs, you are going to pay taxes, and it's for the benefit of the whole country. Right? So it just I try to work in a way with them that is, let's open up, let's see what we can do to create a strong community together. And I feel like newcomers, we have a lot to give to this community of tech startups that we have in Canada.
I love it and agreed. And I kind of want to go back to one of the comments you made about we built it and destroyed it. So
Yeah.
when you say that in Colombia, and then this works anywhere that you're building companies, but to take that analogy, it's very much an entrepreneurial kind of journey and what you have to do. Maybe you can explain what that is, because I think the fear, and I know you hear people always say, "Oh, you need to fail fast," but people don't really understand what fail fast means or why
Oh
they
yeah.
should even fail, because they just want to be successful. And I think everybody in the world looks at Elon Musk and all of these players and think, oh, I could be a startup and be in a massive company like these guys. This is incredible. I can be like that in 2 years. And I think there's a disconnect between what someone had to do and how long their journey was and what they went through and how they went through it. And I'm going to say that just using that build and destroy it kind of encompasses what it takes to be an entrepreneur. And I think maybe if you can share a bit about that context, because I think it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, no, I mean, and nobody likes to fail. Nobody, it's not fun at all. But sometimes I think is what you just mentioned is a fast learning process. Basically, you have to recognize when something is not working, and you have to know when you have to shut down your business and start maybe later on something better, because you can be like some big company for a good amount of time, wasting time and money in something that is not going to grow. If you don't want to listen, or you don't want to just give up, or maybe pivot what you have. In my case, I have the worst ever boss, which was my mom. I love her dearly, but heck, she was a really terrible boss in a way. I see many people doing this, like she cannot trust her shadow. She didn't trust to have other employees to do what she or myself could do, or my dad could do. This is a kind of family business we always had. My brother was never kind of involved in those things, but of course, if you are talking with 15 years old version of myself, or 17 years old version of myself, when I started working with them. And of course, at 15 you don't know much of many things, right? But she was relying a lot on what I could do with her, and she was relying a lot on her instincts, and of course who she can trust. And one of the big lessons from building these companies and destroying those companies was to see that I need to trust more people. I need to actually have employees and give them the freedom to work in my company, to be as smart as they could be in what they know, in what they know to do. Know that I was there for them to micromanage them, or to say what they have to do every single day. I love for my staff members to give that freedom. Of course, under certain circumstances, I have to get like some control over things because I cannot like I have like ranch chicken, just having them do whatever. But I try to give them and to push the limits and where they can do stuff, because that type of creativity comes into our community, and we have been able to grow because of the staff members, because of the mentor and coaches, because of the board of directors that have been a part of us, and that freedom that I think partially I have been able to give them to bring something to the table that they feel that is important for the community. So that was a huge lesson learned from having a company with my parents, and also to always speak up when I really need help, because my mom also was, the typical person that, if she was going into a hard time or trouble, she wouldn't necessarily look for help, because it was more at the time they understood that you have to figure it out by yourself. And it's pretty difficult for a person to, figure out every single thing. You are having a challenge, you may need to get an advice, and this is why I have a awesome board of directors, I will say. Because every time that I'm like, I'm having this challenge, I don't know how to resolve it, I have somebody in the board of directors that will help me to figure out what to do. If not, that person will introduce me with another person, or just having a drink with somebody will be like, okay, let's think through this. And but no, it's not thinking just by myself, how to resolve things. So I think those are my 2 cents on what I learned from all these destroying companies, time frame that I have in Colombia.
Well, it's very valuable, and I did catch a few of these that are I think are almost like I should put them in the background, and they should be listed behind me so that when people are watching a video, they'll see what you just said. These 5 points, because they're really valuable, and I think and I'll just go through a couple of them. But when you're building and destroying it, you're obviously changing economies. You're looking for revenue, you're looking for profitability, and when you don't get there and you don't see the scale that you, or the government's threw a million things at you that you didn't expect, you just decide to move on. But it's having the comfort, knowledge, and understanding to be able to do that and being able to shift. A lot of businesses, I think, tend to go at it that they have to keep going until they find their way through, and that isn't always going to be the right solution. And I found it interesting that, um, to your mother's point, she lived off of her instincts and then her trust. And her trust was in the trust circle, which would bring your father and yourself. And then outside of that, it became very difficult. But she was running the show and she was learning through her instincts. And over time, she could either be a 3-person shop forever, or she could find ways to grow. And that's going to come through larger trust circles and building that type of knowledge through. And you mentioned one that I find a lot of founders are really skeptical on, and this is from a first-time founder versus second and third, and it shifts as you go through your first, second, or third business. And that one was that you can work hard and you can do all these great things, but you need to find and seek out advice and be able to have that conversation if it's over drinks or wherever it might be. And you learn to do that at an early onset, which means that you're always going to keep doing that. And I find that this is something that lacks in the community, which is how can I share what I've done wrong? And that goes from founders who've raised funds to not raise funds, or however that might be. Is there something that you can share that really defines and helps a founder open that up? Because again, I can give an example. I was sitting with an employee of 2 companies that had failed that he was part of. And in a way, I was interviewing him. Not that he
Mhm.
would share that I was interviewing, it wasn't recorded, but the questions I was asking was that, what did you gain from this? What did you experience? And now that you're in another startup, what do you find that you're doing different? And oddly enough, he said that all the learnings that he got, he didn't even realize he was learning in those 2 other companies. So now when he sees them, he said he's right away jumps on them, and he's like trying to play like in football defense. He's trying to maneuver so that the founders don't get themselves caught in the same problems that he's witnessed over the last 3, 4 years in the other companies. So it's quite fascinating that once it's built into your mindset, how much you can react and shift to save something you believe in, even if you're only an employee, because he wants the job, he loves what he does, and he doesn't want it to end because 2 founders are fighting, or they didn't see this coming and they don't know how to maneuver around it, or they're not taking advice. Is there something you would recommend to founders that would give more of that idea of how do I actually maneuver through this and ask questions and get the right people helping me?
Yeah, no, we have those type of conversations all the time with the founders, and I have to say, in 7 years, looking at over 200 startups that we have here, we have all type of stories that are like that, right? And many times, the company is failing because of the founders, or because the founders didn't anticipate something will happen. And then, sometimes we see cases when all the weight and knowledge is in one founder, and that just that person, and then the others are not pretty aware of what financially speaking is what is the hustle that the company is has to do to maintain themselves afloat during a certain period of time. I mean, it's a lot to say in that aspect, of the founders, when they have to recognize from very, very early, even when they haven't incorporated the company yet, if this is the person that I want to work for the next 5, 10, 20 years. If what is the vision that we have with this idea, or are we talking about a company, we are going to play the infinite game that Simon Sinek mentions, or is this a short-term commitment, and I want to exit in 3, 4 years, and then the other founder needs to be aware of that, to find the right people around him or her, to continue building the company going forward. And I think it's also important to know that and this is a discussion that I have with, again, with my mom, which is with the biggest person that I admire on all this, because she's a badass entrepreneur, like, for what the things that she has done. But there are times when I feel like the board of directors have to step up and say, hey, the CEO is not in the right position to continue growing the company, and you need to, as a CEO or as a co-founder, accept when the company is growing faster, and you cannot manage that. Sometimes it's difficult to have those conversations, but I feel like it's important that people get you know aware that you can grow the company up to certain level, and not always you will be the CEO of that company if you want to continue that company to grow. So we have seen really bad cases of board of directors, like chat GTP type bad cases of board of directors. But we also have seen cases when board of directors can actually step up for the interest of the company, to help the company to continue growing, and realizing the CEO won't be the right person to continue growing. That doesn't mean that, you are leaving the company in disgrace, but it means that, you can be a part of, maybe the board of directors, advisors, continue being a part of the company in another position, if you feel like this company actually is going to grow to those type of levels. So I think that conversation early on is important, especially if you think that you're building something that is scalable and that is going to make a difference in the market.
I love that. And when you talk about, say, ChatGPT as an example, it's interesting that the board of directors did their job, and then everybody took the global we jumped in to complain instead of allowing the board to do their job. And sure, maybe now he's back into his role, and maybe he'll be out in a year because he's going to find it didn't work out anyways. And this was just a global savings effort by the people instead of the people that were supposed to have the knowledge of the business. And who knows how that outcome will be. But I do agree, like, wholeheartedly, that if these conversations don't happen at the beginning, and that these two people that are dating as co-founders, or three founders, or even if it's just one single founder, what is the aspirations of those founders or that solo founder, and what do they want out of this business? And when they build that board, they need to be transparent. That needs to come out. And I guess, in a way, from what I'm understanding you're saying, is that board's job is to really answer those questions right away. Find out what this founder wants. They want to be out in 5 years. Are they going to be in this business long enough? And is it going to change in year 3 if they start to scale? Are they going to have that question and answer period again and say, is this person the right fit to grow and scale this business? Are they starting to wean and not participate? Are they not sharing financials? Are they not doing the things that are going to grow to benefit the investor community that's invested in the company, and, of course, the community that's buying into the product? So it's fascinating how that conversation has to happen at the beginning, and it tends to be missed. And I think everybody could learn from your badass mom, as you stated, because if you take that badass part, that's really what founders need. They need to be badass, and the boards and the advisors need to be asking hard hitting questions. Because if they're not asking hard hitting questions and they're keeping it to the fluff and they're not pushing demand and pushing the envelope and forcing information to come out, then you're stuck in this conundrum of, is the person doing the right job, or are they not the right person to do this today? Where are we going to be in 5 years or 2 years? I think that's what kind of breaks the whole business up, is that they're not being transparent. They're not opening up and telling you how they feel. And then it just becomes a politics game and everybody's combating everybody instead of being set right from the get go where they want to go.
Totally. I think that, when people are not being transparent with their own board, or, even with your staff members, I think to me, that's a very important thing to do. It will catch up in some point, right? So uh, sooner or later, people will realize that you were not totally telling the truth, or you were not, doing what you're supposed to do, because unfortunately, things come to real, you know and in in many circumstances it could be, you're just delaying that happen, like, and it can, again, can be a pretty ugly situation if that happens when it's too late to fix something, or then people are going to start distrusting you, having a second, third company, fourth company with such a record of, not being transparent in certain things. It becomes more and more difficult, to find people around you that will trust to give you an advice or to help you to continue growing. And again, no all companies are perfect. Like, CEOs make mistakes all the time. I do make mistakes all the time. I'm learning every single day. There are things that I could do today, like I'm totally sure that I'm doing the right thing, and then when I get a board of directors telling me, "Oh, you're not supposed to be doing this. You're supposed to be doing this," or, "Oh, okay." So you correct your way to try to do your best, and to comply with what you're supposed to do. And there is a lot of learning process. So I mean, nobody's expecting perfection here, but it's expecting that, that you will be responsible for the people around you, because you, as a CEO, you're responsible, and as a co-founder of a company, you're responsible for people that are working in your company, are dependable of those salaries. You are responsible for your clients, right, that are also dependable on the solution that you are providing. And your board is liable for whatever errors and omissions that you do. Like, there are a lot of people that are affected by the things that you are doing today. So yeah, so I think that, having those early conversations are important, but I have to be mindful also that it's very difficult sometimes to realize where the company actually can go, how growth can be. And sometimes success happens faster than you can take. And or the opposite. Sometimes I'm more prepared for failures than for success because of my story with my family. But it can happen really fast, and you need to have the right people around you to help you when success happen, because you can also make mistakes when success happen. So yeah, it's a lot of learning that we had all these years with these companies, and of course during my time with my family having businesses.
And those are certainly great experiences. And I would say maybe on the last note to this is, how do you find either a group of people that support you and advise you, and how do you understand which ones are giving you the right insights? Is it because they invest in you, they don't invest in you, they're outside parties, they're your family? How does a founder choose when they've got a lot of voices around them telling them what to do next? And again, there's going to be a lot, because there's a lot of clutter out in the space. You're reading a lot of things, you're seeing what competitors are doing, then you're talking with advisors, coaches, other founders, advisors, investors, and all this information coming around you. How do you find that these founders, especially in your ecosystem, are making the right choices so that they don't end up always getting mud on their face? Is it just everybody's talking about their advisors? They're like, don't talk to this person, they're terrible. Like, how do you mitigate this, and how do you get around it? Because I think it's pretty crucial that everybody has advice, and I think they say advice is worth nothing, it's actions that are worth everything. So how do
That's
you value that, and how do you get anywhere with all of the people talking around you?
Well, the first thing I will say, that try to avoid family, because normally family loves you and they will do whatever. Like, every time I ask an advice to my mom, she thinks that I do everything perfect. So, it's just that I do it just for my ego. Just if I need like somebody to put me up, I call her. But when I need a real advice, sometimes I go, how do you get those advisors? I will say that this is like dating, right? You have to be meeting a lot of people and actually get to know them, and get to know what is their story, and why they want to help you. There is always a why in everything. And you cannot take lightly, like, oh, I just met this person here and I think that this person is just going to be an awesome board of directors and advisor. Yeah, I think you have to have several conversations through a period of time to really realize if this is the right person for my board of directors, for my advisory board. And of course, see what is the track record that this person has. For example, I have one more. My board of directors is Valerie Fox. That in the market, she's known for build up basically the MC Ryerson. Right, she was the person who created and ran DMC for 5 years and put it number one in North America. So that's a pretty good record for me in regards of somebody that has the knowledge in the industry that can actually help me, to do better with global startups. She has been my board of advisors for 7 years, and most of them from the beginning has been my board of advisors for a while. In my first board of directors, was a person that was mentoring me with when I have the consulting company. And whatever he said at the time, I was doing probably the opposite. I think he had a lot of patience with me, and I lost a lot of money because I didn't follow his advice. So that's when I have shared in the past when I started Latam startups. I started with minus $25,000. It was because of the many things that I didn't do at the time. That my advisor was telling me. And he stopped talking with me for 6 months. It was like he was so upset with me after many things that I was doing. But the moment that I put Latam startup together, and I asked him to be my board of directors, he jumped up and said, "Yes, of course, I will be there." And he's still there. So many of the things, that happen, I think is basically, knowing the other person, knowing how that person can contribute to, to the organization, and whether how is the relationship going. Are you feeling like you can trust that person, and that is that person also getting something from you, from being an advisor or a board in the company. What is up to them? Why is that they are doing that? So you get like a middle point where, okay, this makes sense. But yeah, it doesn't happen overnight, and you have to be meeting a lot of people in order to do that. So I'm an introvert. I know how difficult it is to reach out people, but you have to put in the shoes. And manage your, I don't know, imposter syndrome, whatever you call it, and just reach out people and start having conversations.
Well, that's well shared. I'm going to go back to the thing that you've said multiple times. It really comes down to, and again, this goes back to your mother, I'm guessing, but it's the trust factor. It's the really
Yeah,
is how do you trust people that they're giving you the right insight? And I think the add on that you shared is that, outside of background check and what have they accomplished and what have they completed, but spending some time interviewing them, spending more time in meetings with them, putting them under the gun to find out how they react and how they're actually going to help you. But it comes down to what are they getting out of it? They have to have their why. Why are they there? Why do they want to help you? What's their outcome that they're going to achieve from this? And then on your side, it builds trust. So knowing those things are going to help you build that trust and get the right people supporting you. And to your point, you've had great people supporting you for the entire 7 years of it, and that came from trust, but also learning what they've accomplished and what they've done, and use that to benefit yourself as you propel forward and scale your business.
that's totally right. So, and I have to say that for my board of directors, and probably last point on here on board of directors is that you also have to see the chemistry between them, right? And it's really remarkable when I see them working together towards the organization growth and vision. So we have done, like, retreats when we have been just working on, what is the next 3 years of the company, how it looks like, to see all of them working together towards that vision and putting time and, into build something along with me. It's pretty remarkable. So that's why I always, mention to our startups, please get a board of directors, people that can help you to, think with you and see what, how the company will look like in the next few years. And what I feel is like people here are pretty open to do that. Not saying that everyone is, open, but I see the community's way better in this way. Like you can reach out people and ask, and people are going to respond. Whether it's no or yes, but they are going to respond.
I love it. Bring people together, trust them, help them work together, see how they all interact, and then grow your business from there. I think it's a beautiful way of organizing yourself and your company and the initiatives around your founders or co-founders. And a lot of it, I guess you mentioned, it comes down to trust and trusting yourself, listening to everything, and coming up with the right story and the right way you want to tackle the market and go after it. So very informative. I love it. We're going to transition now into my favorite segment, which is a 60-second rant. So you have 60 seconds. I'll raise my hand at 5 seconds. I've never got to use this, but I want you to find the thing that you want to dive into the most. You've got 60 seconds. If you're ready to go, I'm going to hit start on the timer. Rant about anything.
About anything. I think in my daily job, this probably has been the most difficult year for us as a community. In a way that we see some founders' attitude this year is that of not doing stuff, do everything for me. It's a kind of attitude. I don't know if something. I've been discussing this with different people. Is this something post-pandemic? People are getting with this attitude. I don't give a shit, sorry, about anything. It's just, do this for me. I don't want to do this. I want to grow my company, but I want, somebody else to do it for me. And I think, we as a community and our staff members, we have been dealing a lot this year with that type of, approach from funders. Either they are here in Canada or outside, but yeah, I don't know where it's coming from. The attitude of do things for me. That's it.
Well, it's a great rant. I'm going to say that I think this is everybody.
Yeah.
And I think that everybody wants to get what they can for free. Nobody wants to work hard for it. Everybody, I think, since the pandemic, everybody is about assets and value, and I can't do anything unless you're giving it to me for free. So, how do you change that? How do you make founders get back to the hard work? Because it was always said years ago, invest in immigration startups because they know what hustle is. They got to work hard for everything. So that's where you want to go. You're telling me the opposite now, that that's what's changing, unfortunately, which means that they're assimilating into the rest of the world, which is I don't want to do anything and I want everybody to give it to me for free because I'm supposed to live my best life according to TikTok. So how do we change this and how do we make this worthwhile? Because if the world's just building a bunch of flaky people that don't want to do work and they want to steal and rob, how do we make sure that we're investing in the right people?
No, we have different ways to try to check them up and, to tell them, hey, things are not going to happen by themselves. You have to work on this. And sometimes, you have to basically let them learn in the hard way. We are here to tell them, what to do. Not that this is happening with the majority of companies, but we have seen an increase of founders with this type of attitude. So yeah, my approach has been, okay, let's do it your way and see what happens. And then it's kind of like when you have kids and you see toddlers, like they are going to fail and they don't want to hear you, but they're still going to. It's kind of like that, right? And I feel like okay, before beginning of this year, we were kind of pushing, to, hey, listen up, you are going to be failing if you continue doing this. And then our last approach has been, okay, let's do it your way. And it's a little bit hard to see them fail because they don't follow. But I think it's the other way to learn. I don't have any other tactic at this point. I will say.
It's a tough life lesson that if you're not going to put in the hard work, you're going to have a not a favorable outcome. And it's unfortunate that people aren't seeing that hard work does pay off over time. So it sounds
Yeah.
like you're doing the right things, you're learning the right way, and hopefully your founders see the value that you're bringing to the ecosystem, and they either jump on board or they find somebody else to do their free work and everything else that they're trying to pawn off on people, and you'll get the great companies that know what it takes to be a founder.
Yeah, so sometimes, especially with the ones that are not here, the most difficult part for them is that they are already known in their home countries. They already have built a name, and they are coming to this country, and it's like, why I have to do everything again, like from scratch, right? Like, I have this such amazing company there. I put just in LinkedIn before, if I have $1 for every company that have told me that they are more advanced and more mature, and you know awesome, more than the others, like, I wouldn't have this other business. I will be a millionaire already, because they all come with not all, but most, they come with this attitude of like, I'm so big here, just treat me that way. And the thing is that, unfortunately, this happen at all levels. You see actors, singers, if we are talking about, celebrities, if they go to sometimes other countries that they don't know about them, they have kind of to build from scratch branding. And that's a hard thing that we have seen in some of the companies, because they come already with, a good presence in their other country, and they expecting that you treat them the same way as they are treated right now in the other country, because they are big there.
Yeah, it is. It's very tough. I think in time, hopefully, people realize when you're changing new markets that you have to resell yourself through, and that's just the part of being an entrepreneur if you want to grow your business.
Basically, yeah.
All right, we're going to transition into our investor segment now. So this is pick one or the other. So we're going to we'll start off, and it's pick one. Yeah, founder or co-founder is the first question. You pick which one from your investor standpoint. Ready to
Okay.
roll?
Yep.
Perfect. All right, founder or co-founder?
Founder.
Unicorn or 4-year 10x exit?
Excuse me, can you repeat?
Unicorn or a 4-year 10x exit?
Prefer unicorn.
Okay, tech or CPG?
Tech.
NFT or Web 3.0?
Web3.
AI or blockchain?
AI.
First time founder or second, third time founder?
Second, third time founder.
First money in or Series A?
Series A.
Angel or VC?
VC.
Board seat or observer?
Proceed.
Safe or convertible note?
Safe.
Favorite part of investing?
Mm, Knowing the business, different businesses, like, I don't know. Knowing
Okay.
what is the
Lead or
business.
follow?
Excuse me.
Lead or follow?
Lead.
Uh, Verticals of focus.
Verticals.
Yeah, which verticals would you which verticals are you guys going to focus on for your fund? Which areas do you want to invest in?
We want to invest in Web3 going forward. So for now, it will be kind of agnostic, but going forward will be Web3.
Okay, love it. Two qualities a startup needs in order to stand out to you.
Two quality of startups, you mean examples?
Yes, correct. Like two things that
Yeah.
you feel will set a startup aside that you'll want to work with them and invest in them.
Coachable teams, I think that everyone look for that. And traction is important. Having real customers means that there is a real pain in the market.
Okay. What piece of advice would you give to founders 9 out of 10 times?
To listen, to be coachable, and to have a board of directors. Again, like we come to the same point of having somebody to help you.
Love it. Do you have a philosophy or any rules that you stand by?
Yeah, and in our community, we kind of embrace diversity and inclusion. So that from the point of view of having people from all backgrounds, newcomers from everywhere, founders that are minorities. So will be diversity, inclusion, and transparency is our core values, which resonates with what I feel myself to.
Okay. Who is your hero or mentor and why?
Hero, again, my mom. Mentor, I have different people that I will say that my whole board of directors are my mentors and people that I really admire for what they do.
Love it. What is your biggest fear or phobia in the business startup ecosystem?
Um, Phobia, ego. I feel like that's kind of like for one thing, I like to work with people with egos in a way that I feel like I can put feet on ground. But for other parts, I hate people with big egos coming to the community. It's-
That one's always a tough one to mix around. I completely agree with that. If you
mm.
could change one thing about venture, what would it be?
To be less risk adverse, but I can say, yeah, to
That
be
one is
more
tough.
open minded. Mm.
I love it. All right, we're going to move into the personal side. Pick
Okay.
one or the other. Here we go. Most famous person that pops in your mind.
Jerry Seinfeld.
Whoa, love him. That's awesome. First brand that pops in your mind.
Um, Nike.
Book or movie.
Book.
Superman or Wonder Woman.
I was always fan of Superman, actually.
All right, fortune cookie or birthday cake.
Birthday cake.
5 minutes with Bezos or Oprah.
Oprah.
Mountain or beach.
Beach.
Bike or run.
Hike.
Perfect. Big Mac or Chicken McNuggets.
Big nuggets.
Okay. Trophy or money.
Uh, Money.
Beer or wine.
Wine.
TED Talk or book reading.
Book reading.
TikTok or Instagram.
TikTok.
Facebook or LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
Favorite movie and what character would you play?
Ooh, that's difficult one. Don't remember what favorite movie. The Greatest Showman and the main character. Yeah.
All right, perfect. Favorite book.
Uh, the Cultural Map.
You have to say that one again so I can write it down.
The Cultural Map.
Cultural map. All right. We'll
You
look
should
that
read it.
one
It's
up.
really good.
I'm
Yeah.
going to read that. All right, done. Favorite sports team.
Ooh, I'm bad on that one. Volleyball.
I love it. That's good. All right, what is the meaning of success to you?
The meaning of success. I think when you feel fulfilled, personally speaking, with what you are doing.
Awesome. What is your superpower?
Communication. I feel like that's my superpower.
Well, you're also great at building a community, which means the superpower of those all kind of coincide together. So I would say that's brilliant and totally agree with that. It's awesome. Well,
Thank
Miriam, I'm going to say it's been a real pleasure getting the opportunity to chat with you today. I took a million notes, a lot of learnings, and you have a lot of great taglines of things that you've learned and shared. So I appreciate all of that. And the way we kind of like to end our show is that we want to give you the opportunity to say any last words to investors or to the startup community. I turn it over to you. And one last thing, if you can share how people can get a hold of you, that would be awesome. But thank you very much for all your time.
No, thank you again for the opportunity to speak. I'm very, honored and humble for the opportunity. And, to people, just, reach out. There are communities everywhere that can help you to grow your business. If you are a newcomer, please feel at home with us. We will try to do our best to feel you, comfortable in the community growing your business. And yeah, how people can, get in contact with me, LinkedIn. I love to use LinkedIn for every contact, so that would be great.
I love it. Thank you very
Hmm.
much, Miriam. Okay, it was a great conversation with Miriam. She brought so much great stuff, and I'm going to start off by saying I find it really awesome that her mom's a badass and that's helped her do so many things in this entrepreneurial space, especially from being a young kid working in the family business all the way through. And some of those great touch points are certainly build it and destroy it, which is really awesome. That you have to be able to figure out quickly what you have and what's not working and move on. And then finding the right support team, and she talked about that trust circle or finding advice that works for you. And I think a lot of that comes from trial and error, meeting with people, going with your gut instincts and trust, as she mentioned. um, Speak up when you need help. I think those are some big things that you have to learn right away from the get-go. Build that board of advisors, board of directors right away, people that believe in you but also that you can trust. Work with them, trial and error them before you go into that bigger commitment. What do they want out of this? And then set your goals with your board. What do you want out of this business in the next 5 to 10 years? When do you want to exit? When do you want to sell? If you look at the great Wayne Gretzky, right when he started his career, he said, I'm retiring in 1999, which I think was a 20-year career. So he knew right away that was the time and that was his number and he was going with it. So I think everybody has to figure out those details right away on what they want to do and how they're going to work with their board to get there. So I think there's a lot of insight and value there. So I want to thank everybody for joining us today. If you've enjoyed this conversation, please feel free to share with your friends, subscribe to our YouTube channel, or please follow us on Spotify, Google, and or Apple. Feel free to share an audio or video clip or a show. We may include it in one of our future podcasts. You can find us on all social platforms, including LinkedIn at Supporters Fund. Your support and comments are truly appreciated. Please visit us at supportersfund.com or startup events at openpeoplenetwork.com. Thank you and have a fantastic day.